Like everyone's so cool.
Would it be possible to have you sit in Jason's seat?
Yes, that is a possibility. Or I can stand. Or sit. So, my name's Nick Hutchins. I don't know, you guys met some of you, maybe, I think I met you, Catherine? All right, my name's Nick. And so I met Jason at Landmark. That's how we got to know each other. And we shared a lot of the same interests around entrepreneurship, business, technology, and had a living room talk a few weeks ago about my core passion, which is helping folks discover and pursue their passions. That's my interest in life. And so the lens that I view the entire world through, everything I do, all my actions that I take, I put into one of two categories. I'm either helping somebody discover their passion, or I'm helping them pursue it. That includes people, my friends, who I advise, the employees that I hire. I'm either doing one of those things or the other. And that's the lens that I see the world through. Certain people see things through their own lens. If you look at Zipcar, for example, the CEO of Zipcar is a woman. The way that she views the world is around utilization of resources. Right? She saw cars that were sitting there, and 90% of the time they weren't being used. And so she saw an underutilized resource and capitalized on that. So that's the lens. My lens is about discovering and pursuing your passion. So that's how we see the world. And to understand how people discover and pursue their passions, you first have to start with understanding what the opposite of passion is. And so if you don't have passion, what do you have? And what most people have is stress. And so I'm going to speak in generalities here. There's obviously exceptions to every rule, but in general, we live in a society where most people don't do the things they love, they do the things they have to do. Right? Not the things they want, but the things they need to do. And they do those things to pay for food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare. Right? Your basic human rights. That's what most people go to work for. They earn their money, and when you look at those things, people typically get caught up in this idea where they need a nicer place to live, nicer food, nicer things, nicer cars. And when you set that as the goal of working for those things, what you end up with is just a very stressful life. Okay? Passion is a result of doing something that you believe in, something you love. And the goal of passion, the way that you measure increased passion, is through impact and service of others. And so usually you find the most passionate people are the people that serve, right? The people that are there for other people. And the more people they can help, the bigger the impact, the more passion they have. It accumulates. It's almost like this cumulative effect. When you start out doing something you love, you have a little bit of passion for it, and you may help yourself. And you may find a way to help one other person through your passion. And that gives you more passion, and so it grows over time. So stress being a result of serving yourself, passion being a result of serving others. Okay. Now, every child, every human being goes through this thing that I call the inflection point. I mean, the inflection point is when you're a child, every parent starts out the same. They encourage the child to follow the things they love to do, so that the child can be happy. Right? You want to try gymnastics? We'll get you gymnastics lessons. That's great. Painting? Yeah, great, awesome. You want to play the cello? Fantastic. So the parents, they encourage you to follow your passions and discover them and pursue them. But then when the child turns 16, which is the inflection point, there's an override switch that every parent goes through. And most parents want their kids to be safe. They want their kids to be able to provide their own food, their own clothing, their own shelter, their own healthcare. And so instead of driving your child towards their passion, typically what happens is that the parents drive their kids towards practicality. What's the practical thing to do? What's the thing that ensures your safety? And it's out of good intention, right? You want kids to be safe. And so most people in that inflection point when they're 16, they put their dreams on hold, they put their passions on hold, that practicality, they get a job, and they live their life. Now the end result of that path typically is stress. Diabetes, heart disease, and then divorce and death. Not to paint a more big picture, but these are the problems we have in America. Depression, I mean, this is why we have this opioid epidemic. I don't want to get dark here, but unfortunately, that's where people usually go. The other side of the coin is if you're lucky and some parents understand more of the long-term vision of fulfillment and passion, they will continue to encourage their child despite the outcome. So if you want to be a poet, I'll send you to college and you can learn to be the best poet in the world. Or a musician, or an artist. And parents will continue, and a good parent will continue to do that until they do arrive at some place where they're passionate and successful. And so that's the other outcome. And very few people actually realize that. Now, when we talk about a solution, how do we solve this problem? It's not just better parenting. Parents need a mechanism. Parents need something, a tool to help them encourage their children. And so instead of asking parents to change their behavior, which is ignore the override switch, continue to encourage your kids, don't worry, they'll be fine. They need a tool, and the tool that I believe will be the solution is called a universal basic asset. Now you guys have probably heard of universal basic income, right? That's a thing, UBI. You've probably heard it. It's getting more and more popular now with the advent of machine learning, automation, jobs. Okay, so universal basic income is actually not attainable. And if we were to give $1,000 to every adult in the country, it would cost taxpayers $5 trillion a year. It's impossible. Can't do it. So if we can't pay for UBI to the government, what do? So I believe in this concept called UBA. UBA is this idea where the difference between someone who's wealthy and has the time and freedom to discover their passion, the difference between that category of people in a socioeconomic way is really about ownership over assets. That's the difference. It's not about income, because you can make a ton of money, but still not have that time and freedom, right? And I can guarantee you San Francisco is filled with people in that category, right? So it's about ownership of assets, and if we can create a mechanism where parents at a very young age, or when their kids are at a young age, rather than invest in a college tuition, rather than pay $150,000 for their college degree, instead of that, buy an asset that provides passive income to your child so that they can have the time and freedom to discover and pursue their passion. If college is in those cards, great. Also, you've got the passive income to do that. If college isn't, you're not taking a flyer thinking that that degree is going to be worth something someday, because honestly, it's not. Not anymore. That dream is dead. And so instead of paying for college tuition, I believe parents should be investing in UBAs. That way, the parents won't have to fear for their child's safety, the kid doesn't have to worry about food, clothing, shelter, healthcare, and what you end up with is an opportunity to discover. And so what discovery looks like, according to the Japanese, they have a phrase for this. It's called ikigai. You know about this? Ikigai? Okay.
I follow that, yeah.
You follow this. Okay, great. So ikigai is this concept where true human fulfillment comes at the intersection between passion, skill, and what the world needs, basically. Right? So you can get paid. And it takes a lot of tries to figure out what that is. Right? You'll try a bunch of things and you love doing that, but you kind of just suck. So the skill's not there. Or you're really good at something, but you have no passion for it and it's boring, so you fail. Or you find something that you're good at and you're passionate about, but you can't make any money. The world doesn't need what you have. So the world doesn't need a better coffee cup, for example. And so when you take a few shots at that discovery process takes time and encouragement by your family, your friends, and it takes a lot of hard work. But if you've got the time and freedom to discover that, you finally, for once, have that opportunity for fulfillment. And most people don't have that time and freedom. They're locked into doing what they have to do. And so great. So now that we've discovered or found our ikigai, right? We found it. What's next? Pursue. How do you pursue that passion now that you know what it is? So the path to fulfillment, the best way to do this that I believe, and I think a lot of people believe, is that you should be surrounding yourself with the best people you can find that are doing that same thing. If you want to work in technology, go to San Francisco. Finance, go to New York. If you want to be an actor, go to Hollywood. And if you want to be a dog sled racer, go to Alaska. But you can't dog sled race here in San Francisco. So pursuit is about stepping out of your comfort zone to leave your home, leave your nest, and go and follow your dreams. People use that term, follow your dreams.
So bobsled team should go to Jamaica, right?
If you want to be the best Jamaican dog sled racer in the world, and that's your passion, or bobsled racer in the world, yeah. But anyway, it's very simple. It's a very simple concept. But the way that our systems are designed, they're not set up for this, actually. They're not set up for this path. The way our systems are designed are, you go to school so that you get good grades, get into a good college, get a good degree. That's our path. That's the way the system is designed. But very rarely does it lead to true fulfillment. So when you think about Ikigai and about pursuit and about UBA, what it requires us to do is redesign our entire system to break the thinking that we need to go to a college to be fulfilled or successful. We need to break this idea of being able to stay in my hometown to be fulfilled. You have to leave. You have to be courageous. You have to be an adventurer to do this too. So it's going to require a massive change in the way we think, the way we act. And so here's the vision. So the vision is a world where people are truly fulfilled because they've gone through this new track, and people are less dependent on these coping mechanisms like alcohol, food, drugs, social media, because they don't need distractions, because they're not stressed. So in a less stressful world, we solve heart disease, we solve the opioid crisis, we're happier, we're less depressed. And in that world, every individual delivers more value to society. So we have better products, we have better services, because people love what they do, and when you do that, the whole world is better. The tide does rise all boats in that world. So that's what I believe is possible. That's my talk. Any questions? Oh, how long was that? Was that listen?
That was 11 minutes.
11 minutes, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. First of all, what kind of assets were you thinking about for UBAs?
So there's a lot of things that you can do here. There's funds. They do like real estate, like REITs kind of. They do investment funds that could be a UBA where a parent is buying into a fund. Specifically, I'm focused in my startup right now. We're building the world's first distributed data center. And so each individual would own an appliance in your home, and it would be literally a data center appliance, and you would earn income for when you want to borrow that appliance to do machine learning or computation.
When you say appliance, you mean server, storage, network, and that sort of thing?
The whole thing, yeah.
Is it kind of like what people are doing to like Bitcoin mining? Everybody's borrowing each other's like.
So for the first time in the world, blockchain has provided us with the protocols to patch that together. Because before we didn't really have that, but with blockchain protocols, we can stitch together a distributed data center where the transactions can take place in a trustless system. So we don't need an intermediary. We don't need a mega company to facilitate this explosion of distribution of computation, resources, universal basic assets. So that's the asset class that I'm going after specifically. But there's a bunch of things. There's a bunch of things you can do.
Are you talking about the turbine-less wind power?
Sure, there's energy, distributed energy products too. You can own a piece of the energy grid that way. Yeah, there's a lot of things.
And how do you envision passing on all this information, the vision, to the parents, to people to actually do this?
Well, that's a good question.
All the Tiger Mom's telling me to be a doctor.
All of our parents probably do.
It's a movement that will take a full generation to achieve. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. It's a long-term vision, and I think that through specific success measures like less drug dependencies, less depression, like happier kids, more successful kids, I think the results will start to speak louder and louder, and people will realize that this is way better than sending my kids to college. But it'll take time. It's going to take a full generation to really.
Do you believe that everyone can find a passion?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I do. I believe that it's a factor of time and freedom. So if they're not in a jail cell and they have time, I believe that everyone can discover their passion. And it's about trying a lot of different things and finding that, Ikigai, like the Ikigai thing. It's about time and work, and it's also encouragement. I think people don't discover their passions because they don't have the right encouragement around them, either from their friends or family. So it's up to all of us to help.
I have a related. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I have a related question to that. I feel like there's two camps of thought. One that oftentimes your passion doesn't actually bring you any value, and then the other extreme is that you can cultivate a passion in anything you do. Even menial work, you can generate passion there.
Correct.
I guess it's kind of a similar question in the discovery process. What is your take? How do you navigate that?
I agree with the latter, which is we actually make our own passion. Passion's not found. You don't discover your passion. What you do is you discover something you're really good at that the world needs. And if you're successful and the world needs more of that, the more successful you become. And the more visible the impact of your service and how you're changing lives and you can help people, I think that part is fueled by this hormone called oxytocin. And the more oxytocin you have, the more passionate you become. So it is something that you learn. I think you become more passionate as you become more helpful and can serve others and have a bigger impact. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I have a question. Oh, if you can first go.
Thank you. I was just, your comment about surrounding yourself with people that will help you pursue your passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That have similar passion. And,
Yep.
that comment about go follow your dreams.
Yeah.
But how, in your experience, is it easy for people to actually do that in a situation where you do have a family that you have to support, but you can't give up everything to go and follow your dream or go to Jamaica and pick up a facility?
That's right.
So how do you help people find that balance and still be able to go and pursue the passion?
It gets harder as you get older. So as you accumulate responsibilities, right? Kids, families, you start to buy properties, things that weigh you down, and things in your backpack become lead weight, helium. So you start off as a young kid with a jetpack and you can fly where you want.
Yeah.
As you get older, your jetpack starts to be filled up with lead weights, and you just watch out for water. So I think that the idea of using universal basic assets has to transcend across multiple socioeconomic classes. So you have to actually have bigger assets that can provide enough income for your family at that point to cover, so that you can have the freedom to discover your passion. So what we're looking at is, and that's why I like computing as a UBA, because you can build a bigger data center in your garage that way. It scales really well. And you can also do it at the component level, so you can buy a $500,000 AI machine that sits on your desktop, and that thing can generate 20 grand a month in income. So it's really, the UBA part is essential in providing that freedom and time. And it's true not only for so responsibilities also becomes a lifestyle that you start to acquire too. I have a friend who's a lawyer, partner at Cooley, and he lives in Manhattan, and the guy's not going to leave Cooley to try photography. He makes, he can't afford to pay for that lifestyle. So he doesn't have the freedom that you might think. He looks like he does, but really now that he's lived this lifestyle, he doesn't have the freedom.
So UBA is really passive income, is what I'm hearing.
It's passive income, yeah. And a lot of it's around infrastructure. When you look at assets that can do this, I think that the best candidates are commodities, infrastructure, wood, timberland, stuff like that. Something that's durable, stuff that the public needs.
What about, I'm in the educational space, knowledge.
Yeah.
That's not, you know what I mean? That's actually always changing.
Data?
Medical education.
Oh, education, schools.
Yeah. Medical knowledge.
The body of knowledge in medicine is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you're saying that is an asset, an investable
It's hard to
asset.
make that into a
It's
passive.
hard to make it passive. Okay. I guess I was more getting to, how do you decide what makes a good UBA?
It's a good question. This is a fairly new concept. There was an article in Fast Company a few weeks ago about it, and I've talked to people at the Institute for the Future about this. They coined the term. And it's still in its infancy. The best candidates, though, that they believe, and I believe, are things like large infrastructure stuff that should be just public utility. And it also, the other benefit to doing it that way is that you disintermediate some of the mega monopolies too. You can take down Amazon and others, and Facebook and stuff. You have these big monopolies, and you can break apart the monopolies and redistribute that wealth in a UBA format. So that's why I like some of the larger type computer stuff initially, because it's scalable. It's interesting. But
It seems like those, won't there always be, I'm not sure what the term is, not conflict of interest, but if, for example, these servers that your company is trying to sell is a good way to generate passive income, someone's gonna realize this and they're gonna start buying up all the servers. Right? It's, unless you limit it to like one per household or something. Like if it's profitable, people are going to want to maximize that profit. And they'll find like inefficiencies. And if these servers are the best way to make money, then someone will buy all of them if they can.
Totally.
Yeah, like if you have an acre of land that makes money, you're going to want 2 acres and 4. Like you can be like, hey neighbor, I have some of my land, so we can all be wealthy. Someone's going to want all the land.
You can account on greed. That's what you're basically saying, is that human greed is definitely an element in any economic system, and that's a real risk. And I think that when you look at this project that I'm working on, one of the factors that we're considering is energy, power cost. Right? We know that data centers, basically 50% of the OpEx for data centers is energy. So we know that in markets where we can get cheap energy, we can provide more income, right? And so it's going to require regulatory help to make sure that these asset classes are not centralized, that they're not accumulated and centralized to single major entities like they are today. And so it's a combination of partnering with producers, manufacturers, local regulatory, municipal, state, federal. Everyone has to be involved. It's going to require involvement across every person, every entity you can imagine. Law, there's going to be some new laws that will have to be written. There's a technology component to this where we can ensure decentralization through technology, through latency. So we've thought about this actually, of like, if there's too many clusters and the latency is too low, we can start shutting them down as they start to accumulate. So we can actually infuse some of these policies into smart contracts and into the technology layer and the hardware layer. So that's a good point, and it's definitely something we think a lot about.
No, we already have laws that prevent accumulation of wealth into one entity. Right, we broke up Microsoft.
Right, antitrust.
We already have that type of, that's already a problem that exists in society in general.
Totally.
So the reason why Jason can't take up all the land in America is that we already have laws that would have been, if he gets to the point where he has too much land, they're going to be like, all right, he's got a monopoly on land. It's a problem.
Break up big land, big Jason home.
Yeah.
Broke it up. Standard oil and the rock.
Yeah, and there's no reason why that wouldn't apply to whatever new technology that becomes.
I mean, those laws are. There's a lot of special interests. You can influence the law if you have the money.
Yes.
Right.
Right, but that's already a problem that we already have.
Like 1% of the wealth is like. Sorry, 1% owns like how much percent of the wealth?
We're already
of the wealth.
It's already happening.
Yeah. So.
No, that's a good point. I think it's about getting everyone involved early. That's really the key. I mean, people like, regulation's bad and stuff. I don't think regulation's bad. I just think that getting regulators involved really, really early on to just design the system with them hand in hand, you're not going to run into these big regulation problems. Like, you just got to get people involved. Everyone, energy, government. So that's what we're doing. We're involving everyone early. That's our goal.
So I have a question more on the vision.
Yeah.
So I really admire this vision. It is something I'm passionate about as well.
You're passionate about this vision?
Yeah,
about passion? Passionate about passion? I'm like obsessed with passion.
And it's amazing. It sounds really ideal. But one thing I see, there might be some industries or some jobs where there's no ikigai, maybe a janitor role or a media labor role.
Who's going to serve all the coffee? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you plan to navigate that?
Totally. And I have a response to that. I love this.
Perfect.
So the people that are doing those shit jobs, the janitors and stuff, are robots.
I was thinking about that.
That's my universal answer to that question. Machine learning, AI, and robots. Who's going to be driving all the cars?
You're not going to need baristas in the near future.
What's up?
You're not going to need baristas in the near future. But I would argue that you could still find passion and fulfillment even from jobs that may not seem as rewarding to most of us.
And I think in the future, though, just extrapolating and unpacking that a little bit, those people that are passionate about food and food delivery, they're going to be the people who are going to be designing those systems that are going to be run by robots. So it's actually not even, the future is not going to be about doing the work, it's going to be about designing systems that do the work. And so we're all going to be a bunch of designers. And I think that if I was going to send a kid to school, I'd send him to art school. And I'm getting an MFA. That's what you should be studying right now. You need to be an artist, you need to be a creative. The right brain. The right brain I think is going to rule the world. And you're right, there are places, but I think at that point you're designing things and it's going to be great. You're going to be flying cars and robots everywhere and like how cool is that?
There was that one really big YouTube video about the whole automation scare.
Totally.
C.G. Gray, C.J. Lewis? No, C.G. Gray, I think.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you can't have everyone be an artist because
Right.
there's only so much art that we need to consume, and artists are already starving as is, right?
Totally.
So you can't if you get even more supply.
Totally.
I think you meant creative person, not necessarily painting.
Well,
That.
yeah. I was speaking more generally about like just being more creative about what you're doing in life. Like Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs isn't an artist, but he's a creative thinker. He's a design thinker.
Yeah, we don't-
Airbnb, those guys came from like RISD or something. They're like design dudes. So, but I think that a lot of the art that we consume is actually produced through this filter. And I know that is it Carolyn? Catherine. Because you're investing in this space, I know that you see this a lot. It's a lot of the consumption of art is through this filter of capitalism and money, like what's profitable to make a movie and stuff. So we haven't seen a marketplace yet driven by
So can I talk about
the efficiencies in that market.
that part of stuff?
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
part of the reason why I started arts and film, like basic investing, is not for profit because like typically what I do in like pre-IPO investing is always about profit, right? Like 8 months, make 3x. That's like what my investor want, right? So I usually do that. But I felt like for me, my secret passion before I start pursuing this stuff, I was like all into arts because I grew up in LA, Beverly. So everybody was like a film movie star, and I was like writing scripts and filming that when I was 16. So I was like, okay, how can I do that profession, but like not be in that business 100%? And I realized one thing I can do is I can leverage capital because I can connect East and West, like Asia and here. So I was like, okay, why don't we just create this platform that so I have a focus on Asian American stuff because, being Asian American, I was like, I need to see more movies made about us. Like, you cannot be some weird dude in some like kung fu fighting movie anymore. Like, this is 2018.
Totally.
So I was like, okay, let me go out and I talked to like all the producers. So I found the producer for the Joy Luck Club. I persuaded her, like I basically worked with her for 6 months, like to a year. I was like, why don't we do this? Like, crowdsource all the projects from Asian American writers, development agents, actors. We're gonna make stuff that's like represent Asian America. So you know what? Like it's so hard. I talked to all the studios. I used to work for Warner Brothers. It was really hard to get their buy-in because they're like such a niche market.
Exactly,
Like it
niche
doesn't make money. It's not like Iron Man. It's not like superheroes. So we're like, F this. We're just gonna do our own thing, right? So I go out to Asia, find all the billionaires, be like, hey, you want to invest in this? Not for the money. Maybe you won't make money, but it's for the cost. Like
Exactly.
you want to do this because you want to see your kids being brought up in the right environment. So we're like, okay. So we went out and basically created this platform that allows wealthy individual to contribute to like our projects from the way beginning, like the screenwriting part, the finding people, getting materials, and then we build our own sort of YC for Asian American arts, so that people can go through this, like USC's in it, like all art schools. You just gotta piece things together. So like for me, it was like, okay, that was one thing I liked, but I don't know how to get it done. And before I didn't have all the tools. Sorry, I kind of went on for too long, but I just wanted to say like.
So what you're describing is that mostly art, mass media art anyway, is designed for profitability, not for necessarily for it's like the artistic factor. So in a world where there's way more efficient marketplaces where you can actually make, and when you're an investor, when you're a producer in a major film studio like Warner Brothers, you don't want to make $10 million. That's not interesting. But you want to make $100 million or $1 billion. That's interesting. So they're not going to greenlight something that can make $10 million. But if you're a producer and you love doing this, $10 million might be okay for you. Would be for me. So you're going to start to see when these markets be more efficient, and when you get efficiency in those art markets, you're going to get richer content that's definitely that appeals to specific demographics, and then we're going to need all sorts of interesting platforms that can deliver that content in a reasonable way. So like, if you have a 100x amount of content in art, you're gonna need a way to like filter all this crap. So we need AI to like learn like what I like and be able to surface that. So there's all these different things that we haven't seen yet, but I think that's definitely where
I do think it's also timing, because like
Timing.
a lot of times people don't know art is so unpredictable. But like for example, like I would just in this journey to find out what exactly, how people think, what kind of projects have funded, I realized a lot of Indian movies, like really low budget movies in China do super well. Like one week has 200 million. I was like, wow, this is so interesting. And this has happened this year. And the reason is because people are discovering universal values, like stuff that transcend cultures, right? Like I think if you are someone who can identify these things and find them early, you can of course make money, but obviously it has like a timing, right? Like how things people are perceiving each other, all of that. So I think arts is like a very interesting part where like if you want to pursue it, you have to go in with a mindset like I'm not gonna make money for sure. Like that's what my questions are, like to divert. It's like how do you give people the courage to pursue their fashion? Because it's definitely very costly. Like the courage to like jump, it's like impossible. Like I mean I kind of did it, but like I feel like it's still very, very hard. Like every time people ask me, how did you make that jump? I don't even have a right answer for it. It's like I don't know. I kind of just did it.
Right. But there was somebody behind you that encouraged you to do it. Or is someone behind you, around you, or?
Actually, everyone around me said no. Like my parents think I'm like suicidal. Yeah. Like seriously, even today they're like.
But if you failed, would your parents help you? Well, like would they like?
They were just like, honey, stop doing like these career suicides. Like they just think I'm constantly doing career suicide. So I don't know. I feel like the help maybe like is within you. I think.
I see what you're saying.
But the dig down deep for that courage thing is actually a fallacy. So
you need a support system.
It's not for you. So basically, the people that do have courage to take that step, always there's either a safety net, or if they fail, they know that there's some sort of like safety element that can be provided for them, or else you're an irrational human being who does crazy stuff, and eventually you will die. As a result. You'll die. You'll perish. So there is
risk tolerance.
What's that?
It's risk tolerance.
Well. You can, but I think you can.
It's much riskier if you have no support system to do it.
It's much more risky, or maybe not even doable, or else you'll die, or like whatever. But you could definitely draw the risk tolerance in there. Yeah, that's an element of risk tolerance. I think that the bigger your ambitions, the higher your risk tolerance probably.
Fair. I can relate because earlier this year I quit plastic surgery residency to work in my own startups, and it was like I had the support. Like it was like I consider myself pretty risk averse, but I had the support system. I was like, hey, my mom's like, if you want to quit, you can live at home. And in terms of like debt, I was fortunate I didn't have much med school debt. So like if I had a lot of debt and I couldn't live at home, I would be way too scared.
Courage comes from encouragement. It's in the word.
Nice. Nice.
That's a quote.
It's right there. Courage isn't a standalone thing. It's like you need like an EN in front of it, encouragement. I mean, So anyway, it's not something you find. It's something that's given yourself.
This is so cool, by the way, because you get a bunch of nerdy people. I mean, nerdy in like the best connotation possible. Just like people who love learning and love questioning things in one room and talking about like various things. This is super cool.
Someone else go.
Great idea, man.
Here's my email address. If you guys want to email me questions, comments, concerns, follow up there. I want to give time to like let other people. I want to hear what other people are going to say.
Is your startup called CloudGraph?
CloudGraph, yeah. What's that?
Is it blockchain?
It's a distributed data center startup. So we are using blockchain for certain elements of the business. We're doing some mining. We're doing some management across blockchain stuff, contracts, but